Welcome to Revenge by Eve. Take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy today's story.
I stood at my sister's wedding reception, watching my entire family toast to her success and happiness, while I held a folder that would expose the lie they'd all been living, and none of them saw it coming. Before this story goes any further, tell me, would you have kept the peace or done what I did? And as you listen, comment where you're listening from. I read everyone. My name is Eve, and for 26 years I was the family disappointment. Not because I was a failure, not because I was cruel or reckless or destructive, but because I wasn't my sister. Vanessa was 3 years older than me, and from the moment I was born, I existed in her shadow. She was the golden child, beautiful, charismatic, effortlessly successful at everything she touched. She got straight A's without studying. She made varsity cheerleader as a freshman. She dated the quarterback, got into her dream college, landed a prestigious job right out of school. And I was me. I wasn't ugly, but I wasn't striking like Vanessa. I wasn't stupid, but I had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. I wasn't unpopular, but I didn't have her magnetic presence that made people want to be around her. I was ordinary. And in my family, ordinary was the worst thing you could be. We grew up in a comfortable home in the suburbs. My parents, Vanessa, me, and our younger brother Marcus. My father was a financial advisor, my mother a part-time interior designer. We had family dinners every night, went to church on Sundays, took vacations to the beach every summer. From the outside, we looked perfect. But inside our house, there was a hierarchy. Vanessa was at the top. Marcus was the baby who could do no wrong, and I was somewhere in the middle, visible enough to be criticized, invisible enough to be forgotten. I noticed it early, the way my mother's face would light up when Vanessa walked into a room while barely glancing at me, the way my father would brag about Vanessa's achievements at dinner parties but never mention mine. The way family photos were arranged in the living room, Vanessa's accomplishments displayed prominently, while my school awards were shoved in a drawer. But I told myself it was normal. Vanessa was exceptional. Of course they were proud of her. That didn't mean they loved me less. I was wrong about that. I tried so hard to earn their approval. I joined every club, every activity, hoping something would make them notice me. I played volleyball. I was decent. Made the team. He even scored the winning point in a regional game. My parents missed it. They were at Vanessa's college visit. I learned piano, practiced for hours every day until my fingers ached. At my recital, where I played a complicated Chopin piece I'd spent months perfecting, my mother spent the entire performance on her phone texting Vanessa about her internship interview. I graduated high school with honours, got accepted into a good university with a partial scholarship. At dinner that night, my father said, "That's great, honey," and then immediately turned to Vanessa to discuss her promotion at work. I learned to expect it, the casual dismissal, the constant comparison, the feeling that no matter what I accomplished, it would never be enough because I wasn't her. But I kept trying, because they were my family, and I thought that mattered. So I chose to study business in college, thinking maybe if I followed a practical path like my father's, he'd respect me more. I worked part-time to help with expenses, joined professional organizations, networked relentlessly. I graduated with a 3.8 GPA and got a job at a marketing firm. My parents sent a card. Vanessa got a graduation party with 100 guests when she finished her master's degree. I told myself it was fine. I was building my own life. I didn't need their validation, but I wanted it. God, I wanted it so badly. The warning signs that something was deeply wrong started appearing when Vanessa got engaged. His name was Brett, and he was exactly the kind of man you'd expect Vanessa to marry. Tall, handsome, successful. He was a corporate lawyer at a prestigious firm, drove a BMW, and had a smile that could sell anything. My parents loved him instantly. The engagement party was elaborate, a catered event at my parents' house with over 50 guests. I helped set up, arrange flowers, coordinate with the caterers. My mother barely acknowledged my work. During the toasts, my father stood up and talked about how proud he was of Vanessa, how she'd always been destined for greatness, how Brett was lucky to have her. Everyone applauded. Vanessa glowed. No one mentioned me, even though I was standing right there. That's when I started to notice the looks. The way my mother and Vanessa would exchange glances when I spoke. The way my father would sigh quietly when I entered a room. The way Marcus, who used to at least be neutral toward me, had started making subtle jabs. At family dinner one night, I mentioned that I'd been promoted to senior marketing coordinator. It was a big deal for me. More responsibility, better pay, recognition of my hard work. "That's nice," my mother said absently, and then turned to Vanessa. "Have you and Brett decided on a venue yet?" That was it. That was my entire acknowledgement. Vanessa launched into a detailed description of 3 different venues they were considering, each more expensive than the last. My parents hung on every word, asked questions, offered opinions. I sat there, my announcement forgotten, and felt something crack inside my chest. After dinner, I tried to talk to my mother in the kitchen while we cleaned up. "Mum, did you hear what I said earlier about my promotion?" She was loading the dishwasher, not looking at me. "Yes, honey, that's wonderful. I've been working toward this for 2 years. It's a really big deal." "I'm sure it is." Her tone was distracted, dismissive. Do you even know what my job is?" She finally looked at me, a slight frown on her face. "Of course I do. You work in marketing." "What company?" She hesitated. You've changed jobs, haven't I? I can't keep track." I'd been at the same company for 3 years. "Never mind," I said quietly. She touched my arm, a brief, perfunctory gesture. "Don't be sensitive, Eve. You know how busy things are with the wedding planning." The wedding was 8 months away. Over the following weeks, everything became about Vanessa's wedding. Every conversation, every family gathering, every phone call. My mother had spreadsheets and Pinterest boards and vendor contracts spread across the dining room table at all times. I offered to help. I'm organized, Mom detail-oriented. I could have been useful, but every time I made a suggestion, it was dismissed. Every time I volunteered to handle something, I was told it was already taken care of. I wasn't invited to dress shopping. I wasn't asked to be a bridesmaid. Vanessa chose her college friends and Brett's sister. I wasn't included in the bachelorette party planning. When I finally asked Vanessa directly why I wasn't in the wedding party, she looked at me like I'd asked something absurd. "I wanted to keep it to my closest friends," she said. "You understand, right?" I was her sister, her only sister. "Right," I said, because what else could I say? My mother overheard and added, "Besides, you'll be so busy with work, you wouldn't have time for all the bridesmaid duties." They'd decided for me, decided I didn't matter enough to be included. And things escalated during the holidays. My parents hosted Christmas, as they always did. The house was decorated beautifully. My mother had outdone herself with garland and lights and a massive tree in the living room. Under the tree were piles of wrapped presents. Christmas morning, we gathered to open gifts. Vanessa and Brett were there, glowing and perfect. Marcus was there with his new girlfriend. And I sat on the couch, watching the spectacle unfold. Vanessa opened gift after gift, designer clothes, expensive jewellery, a weekend spa package, contributions toward the wedding fund. Brett got golf clubs and a new watch. Marcus got a new laptop and concert tickets. I opened my gifts. A generic candle set from a discount store, a coffee mug with a motivational quote, and a $25 gift card to a chain restaurant. I held the gift card in my hand, staring at it, trying to understand. My parents had spent hundreds, maybe thousands on everyone else, and I got $25. "We didn't know what to get you," my mother said when she noticed my expression. "You're so hard to shop for." I'd sent her a wish list 3 months ago, with specific items at various price points. But Vanessa laughed and held up a cashmere sweater that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Mom, this is gorgeous." The conversation moved on. I sat there clutching my cheap candle and felt myself disappearing. Later, after dinner, I overheard my parents talking in the kitchen. I'd gone to get a glass of water and stopped in the hallway when I heard my name. "I don't know what to do about Eve," my mother was saying. "She's been so moody lately." "She's always been dramatic," my father replied. "Remember when she cried because we missed her volleyball game?" "She needs to grow up and realize the world doesn't revolve around her." I stood frozen, unable to move. "Vanessa never needed this much attention," my mother continued. "She was always so independent, so self-sufficient. Eve's just, I don't know. She's not as resilient. She needs constant validation. Well, she's not going to get it from us. We raised her to be strong. If she's still struggling, that's on her." I went back to my room without getting the water. I lay in bed that night, replaying their words over and over. Dramatic, needy, not resilient. Was that really how they saw me? Or had I been so starved for their love that I'd become desperate for any scrap of attention? I started pulling away after that. I stopped calling as often, stopped showing up to every family dinner, stopped trying so hard to be noticed. And you know what? They didn't even notice I was gone. The real escalation came during the wedding planning. 6 months before the wedding, my mother asked me to come over to discuss family obligations. I thought maybe, finally, I was being included in something meaningful. I was wrong. I arrived at their house to find my mother, Vanessa, and my Aunt Carol sitting in the living room with wedding binders spread across the coffee table. "Eve, good, you're here," my mother said. "We need to talk about your contribution to the wedding." "My contribution?" Vanessa smiled, that bright, perfect smile that had always gotten her everything she wanted. "Since you're not in the wedding party, we thought you could help in other ways." My Aunt Carol handed me a list, a typed, itemized list of tasks. Coordinate transportation for out-of-town guests, manage the gift table at the reception, handle day of emergencies, organize the rehearsal dinner cleanup, assemble wedding favors, all 500 of them. I scanned the list, shocked. "This is a full-time job." "It's family," my mother said firmly. "We all pitch in." "What is Vanessa pitching in?" The question came out sharper than I intended. Vanessa's smile faltered. My mother's face hardened. "Vanessa is the bride, Eve. Don't be ridiculous." "What about Marcus?" "Marcus is a groomsman. He has his own responsibilities." "So, I'm not important enough to be in the wedding, but I'm expected to do all the work no one else wants to do." "That's not what this is," Vanessa said, her voice taking on a hurt tone that I recognized as manipulation. "We're asking for your help because we trust you." "You're asking because I'm the only one who won't say no." My mother stood up, her expression cold. "If you can't support your sister on her special day, then maybe you shouldn't come at all." The threat hung in the air. I looked at Vanessa, waiting for her to defend me, to say something, anything that acknowledged how unfair this was. She looked away. "Fine," I said quietly. "I'll do it." Because what choice did I have? If I refused, I'd be the difficult one, the selfish one, the one who ruined Vanessa's perfect wedding. I left their house feeling hollowed out. Over the next few months, I did everything on that list. I spent my evenings assembling favors, little organza bags filled with Jordan almonds, each one tied with a ribbon that had to be curled just right. I spent my weekends coordinating with vendors, confirming transportation, managing RSVPs. No one thanked me. No one even acknowledged the work I was doing. At the rehearsal dinner, which I'd helped organize and would be expected to clean up, I sat at a table in the back while my family laughed and toasted at the front. Brett's family was warm and welcoming. My family barely looked at me. During the speeches, my father talked about what an incredible daughter Vanessa was, how proud he was, how she'd exceeded every expectation. Marcus made a funny speech about growing up with Vanessa. Even Brett's best man had stories about how amazing she was. No one mentioned me. I sat there, invisible, and wondered when exactly I'd stopped being part of this family. The core betrayal happened the morning of the wedding. I'd been at the venue since 6 a.m., making sure everything was perfect. The flowers were arranged, the chairs were set up, the guest book was positioned exactly where Vanessa wanted it. I'd barely slept, running on coffee and the fumes of obligation. At 10 a.m, I went to the bridal suite to check if anyone needed anything. The door was partially open and I heard voices inside. Vanessa's voice. "I can't believe we actually pulled this off." My mother's voice. "I told you it would work." I was about to knock when I heard my name. "Do you think Eve suspects anything?" That was Vanessa. A pause. "No, she's too naive to put it together," my mother said. "She still thinks we actually care about her feelings." Laughter. Multiple voices laughing. I stood frozen, my hand raised to knock, unable to process what I was hearing. "I almost feel bad," Vanessa continued. "She's been working so hard on all those tasks we gave her." "Don't feel bad," my Aunt Carol said. "She needed to be useful for once. God knows she hasn't contributed anything else to this family." "Remember when she thought she was going to be a bridesmaid?" Vanessa's voice was dripping with mockery, like I'd want her standing next to me in pictures. "Can you imagine?" More laughter. "She's always been so desperate for attention," my mother added. "It's pathetic, really. At least by giving her these tasks, we kept her busy and out of the way." My chest felt like it was caving in. I couldn't breathe. "I mean, she's family," Vanessa said. "We have to include her, but that doesn't mean she needs to be important." "Exactly," my mother agreed. "She serves her purpose, that's enough." I stepped back from the door, my whole body shaking. Everything clicked into place. Every dismissal, every criticism, every moment of being overlooked. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't because I wasn't good enough. It was intentional. They'd been using me. Treating me like free labor, like someone whose feelings didn't matter because I was too desperate to stand up for myself. I walked back down the hallway, past the reception area I'd spent hours perfecting, past the gift table I'd organized, past all the evidence of my invisible labor. And I kept walking, out of the venue, into the parking lot, into my car. I sat behind the wheel, gripping it so hard my knuckles turned white, and I let myself feel it. All of it. The years of being dismissed, the holidays spent on the outside looking in, the constant crushing weight of never being enough. And then, through the pain and the rage and the devastation, something else emerged. Clarity. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. That was the moment I stopped waiting for them to change. I didn't go back into the venue. I sat in my car for 3 hours while the wedding ceremony happened without me. I didn't care that they'd notice my absence. I didn't care that I'd be blamed for abandoning my duties. I had other priorities now. First, I called my best friend Tasha, the one person in my life who'd always seen how my family treated me and had begged me for years to stand up to them. "I need your help," I said, "and I need you to not talk me out of this. What are you planning?" "Something they'll never see coming." She was quiet for a moment then. "I'm in." "Ah, what do you need?" Over the next 3 hours while Vanessa said her vows and my family celebrated, I put a plan into motion. I'd spent years being the family disappointment, the afterthought, the one who didn't matter. What they didn't know was that being invisible had given me access to things they'd never protected because they never thought I was smart enough or bold enough to do anything with that information. But I was both. I started with finances. My father had always been careless about leaving documents around the house, bank statements, investment portfolios, tax returns. He assumed no one paid attention, but I did. I'd seen things over the years that didn't quite add up. 6 months ago, during a family dinner, I'd noticed a document on his desk about a business partnership with Brett. It seemed odd at the time. Why would my father be in business with Vanessa's fiancé? But I'd been too busy trying to earn approval to think about it much. Now I thought about it a lot. I made a call to a friend who worked in corporate finance. I asked some very specific questions about business disclosure requirements and fiduciary responsibilities. She gave me the answers I needed and the name of someone who could help me dig deeper. Within 2 hours, I had documentation of something very interesting. My father and Brett had been business partners for 3 years, long before Brett met Vanessa. They'd invested in a commercial real estate venture together, one that was performing extremely well. And neither of them had disclosed this to Vanessa. But it got better. I found emails. My father was notoriously bad about logging out of his accounts, and I'd been helping him with computer issues for years, which meant I knew all his passwords. In those emails, there were conversations between my father and Brett discussing the partnership, discussing their profits, and discussing something else. They'd specifically orchestrated Brett meeting Vanessa. My father had introduced them at a company party, knowing Brett needed a wife to project stability for a political campaign he was planning. Vanessa needed a successful husband to complete her perfect life image. It was mutually beneficial. And my parents had encouraged it every step of the way, knowing that Vanessa's marriage to Brett would strengthen my father's business position. She was a business arrangement, and she had no idea. I sat in that parking lot reading email after email, and I realized something. They'd all been playing games, my whole family, using each other, manipulating each other, all while pretending to be the perfect unit. And I'd been too busy trying to belong to see it. I didn't go to the reception. Instead, I went home and spent the evening organizing everything I'd found into a clear, comprehensive document. Every email, every financial record, every piece of evidence that showed exactly what kind of people my family really were. Then I waited. The calls started around midnight. First my mother screaming about how I'd embarrassed them by not showing up to the reception. Then my father demanding to know where I was. Then Marcus, annoyed that he'd had to handle the gift table because I'd flaked. I didn't answer any of them. Vanessa called last at 2 a.m. I could hear the champagne in her voice, the happiness of someone who'd just had the perfect wedding day. "Where were you?" she asked, trying to sound hurt but mostly sounding annoyed. "Mom is furious." "I bet she is." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done, Vanessa. I'm done being your unpaid labor. I'm done being the family disappointment. I'm done pretending I don't see exactly what you all are." "Eve, what are you talking about? Are you drunk?" "I'm clearer than I've ever been. You're acting crazy. You ruined my wedding." "Your wedding was fine. You didn't even notice I was gone until it was over. That should tell you something." She was quiet for a moment. "Look, I know we've had our differences, but you're my sister. And can we just... Do you know why Brett married you?" The question stopped her cold. "What?" "Ask Dad. Or better yet, ask Brett about his business partnership with our father. Ask him about the emails discussing how a marriage to you would be strategically beneficial for his political aspirations." "You're lying." "I have the emails. I have the financial records. I have everything." I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, fast and panicked. "What do you want, Eve? Money? Is this blackmail?" The question hurt more than it should have. Even now, she couldn't imagine I might just want the truth to come out. "I don't want anything from you, Vanessa. I just want you to know that I see you, all of you, and I'm done letting you make me feel small." I hung up. The next morning, I sent the documentation to Vanessa. All of it. Every email, every financial record, every piece of evidence showing that her perfect marriage was built on a business transaction. Then, I sent a separate package to my mother, screenshots of every conversation I'd overheard, every dismissive comment, every moment of neglect, compiled into a timeline that showed exactly how they'd treated me for 26 years. I didn't send it to hurt them. I sent it so they couldn't pretend anymore. So they couldn't rewrite history and make me the villain. The fallout was immediate. Vanessa called Brett, confronted him about the partnership. He apparently tried to deny it at first, then minimize it, then justify it. They had a screaming fight in their honeymoon suite that the hotel staff could hear from the hallway. My mother called me, hysterical, accusing me of trying to destroy the family. My father called me a liar, said I'd fabricated everything, that I was jealous and vindictive. But I had proof, and proof doesn't lie. Marcus was the only one who didn't call. Later, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that he'd seen the documentation and had gone quiet, realizing that he'd been part of the problem. Within a week, Vanessa and Brett's marriage was in crisis. He admitted the partnership, admitted that my father had suggested he pursue Vanessa, admitted that while he'd grown to care for her, the initial connection had been strategic. She was devastated. My parents tried damage control, claiming I'd misunderstood, that I'd taken things out of context, that I was mentally unstable. But other family members had seen the evidence. My Aunt Carol, who'd laughed at me in that bridal suite, suddenly got very quiet. Our cousins I'd grown up with started reaching out, saying they'd always noticed how differently I was treated and had never known how to address it. The perfect family facade was crumbling. 2 months after the wedding, I received an email from Vanessa. It was long, rambling, and surprisingly honest. She admitted that she'd always known she was the favourite and had taken advantage of it. She admitted that she'd been cruel to me, that she'd used me, that she'd never really seen me as a full person, just as the convenient sister who'd always be there. She said she was getting therapy, that she was trying to figure out who she was beyond the golden child role she'd played her whole life. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just said she was sorry. I read that email 3 times, looking for the manipulation, the hidden agenda. But it seemed genuine. I never responded, because the truth was I didn't want to rebuild a relationship with her. I didn't want to be the bigger person or give her the chance to make amends. I didn't owe her that. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. My parents, on the other hand, sent a very different kind of message. A letter from their attorney threatening legal action if I continued to spread false information about the family. I sent the letter to my own attorney, who laughed and said, "Everything you shared is documented fact. They have no case." I never heard from their lawyer again. The consequences rippled further than I expected. Brett's political campaign fell apart when someone leaked the story to a local news blog. I don't know who, but I had my suspicions it might have been Vanessa herself. The narrative of the ambitious lawyer who married for strategic advantage didn't play well with voters. My father's business reputation took a hit. Several of his clients questioned his ethics, his judgment. He lost accounts. My mother stopped hosting family gatherings. The perfect home, the perfect family image. It was all gone. Marcus reached out to me eventually. He apologized for being complicit, for going along with everything because it was easier than standing up to them. We had coffee once. It was awkward but honest. "I always thought you were too sensitive," he said, "but you were just the only one who was paying attention. We're not close, but we're not enemies. That's enough." As for me, I moved to a new city 3 months after the wedding. I got a better job, one where my work is actually valued. I made new friends, built a new life, one that doesn't revolve around seeking approval from people who are never going to give it. I cut off contact with my parents completely. I blocked their numbers, their emails, everything. They tried to reach me through other relatives, sending messages about how families should stick together, how I was being unreasonable. But I'd learned something important. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. And they'd never respected me. A year after the wedding, I heard that Vanessa and Brett had separated. I felt neither joy nor sadness about it, just a distant acknowledgement that the truth has consequences. I heard my parents had downsized to a smaller house, that my father's business was struggling, that my mother had stopped doing interior design work because the community had quietly distanced itself from her. Part of me felt guilty about that. The part that had been raised to put everyone else's feelings first, to be the peacekeeper, to accept blame for things that weren't my fault. But then I remembered that morning in the bridal suite, listening to them laugh about how pathetic I was. And the guilt faded. I didn't destroy my family. They destroyed themselves by building everything on a foundation of lies and manipulation. I just refused to keep pretending the foundation was solid. These days, I don't think about them much. I think about the life I'm building, the person I'm becoming. I think about the friends who actually show up for me, who celebrate my successes and support me through failures. I think about how much energy I wasted trying to earn love from people who were never capable of giving it. And I think about that folder I held at the wedding reception, the one they never saw coming, The black sheep of the family turned out to be the only one who could see clearly in the dark. And that clarity saved me. If you were in my place, what would you have done differently? And don't forget to tell me, where are you listening from right now? This is Revenge by Eve, and your voice matters here.
Thanks for watching Revenge by Eve. We hoped you enjoyed the story. See you soon.